Yep.
7 o'clock, the meeting will come to order. I'm Grace Lesbrunz, Cascade Township Supervisor. Clerk Slater, please call the roll.
Trustee Kessel,
I'm here.
trustee Nordhook,
Here.
trustee Shipley,
Present.
trustee McDonald,
Here.
treasurer Corrston.
Here.
Supervisor Lesbrunz.
Here,
Clerk Slater here.
please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic which stands one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Is there a motion or discussion for approval of tonight's agenda?
One item I think is suggested on there, the ordinance for camping and storage, roll call vote. I think we have to set the public hearing first because it's an ordinance change and I think that was recommended. So I suggest that that be a discussion item and a motion to set the public hearing rather than a approval.
Manager Swayze, is that right?
Yeah, that's how it's written in the staff report, so it's just typed on the agenda.
With that correction, Shipley makes a motion to approve the agenda.
Support.
It's a motion by trustee Shipley, or no, yes, trustee Shipley supported by trustee Kessel to approve the agenda with the amendment of article of item 041-2023 to include the public hearing on that same item. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. We have no presentations this evening, which brings us to Article 5, public comments. Now's the time to comment on anything on the agenda not scheduled for a public hearing. Please limit your comments to 3 minutes and state your name and address for record keeping.
If anyone would like to participate who is on Zoom, please raise your hand.
Article 6, approval of the consent agenda. Is there discussion or a motion?
Yes, I would like to make a motion that we approve the agenda with the following change. Under new business, item 040-041 should be 43 and 44. And I think that's because last time something was off and it didn't get changed here. So with that change, also on page 72 in the packet, the certification date needs to be changed to 5/10/23. I think it was probably cut and pasted from an old copy.
Oh, so you're referring to tonight's agenda. So articles.
Yeah,
Articles. 43, 44. Okay,
I guess I should have said that earlier.
you're fine.
So with that motion.
Support.
It's a motion by Clerk Slater to approve the consent agenda and modify tonight's agenda as discussed, all in, or supported by trustee McDonald, all in favor,
Aye.
opposed. Motion carried. Article 7, financial actions, approval of the April 2023 payables, payroll, and transfers. Trustee Nordhook?
I just had a little discussion on that. I'm finding that there was a substantial legal with another company, another law firm that I've never heard of, in the building department. I just wanted to get some clarification on that one. Maybe Ben would know. Also, because of stuff like that, I'd like to see these get changed in order, maybe put the horse back in front of the cart. So we can approve these before they're paid. I think that'd be a better way of doing it rather than approving them after they're paid.
Just,
So any discussion on that?
just discussion on your second piece of your comment. We'll let Ben respond to the first, but we're looking at the process for the second part. More to come.
Okay,
I think we have to look at logistics of things. But there will be more to come. I'll say that.
okay.
But I think maybe, I don't know if Ben can comment on the first part of your question.
Which line are you looking at?
Now I gotta go find all the payables. It's under the building department. On the expenses. There's a law firm in there.
Yeah, I saw it as well. I know what you're talking about. I can dig through and look for it again real quick, but it's under the check report.
I put it in here. Let me find it.
Is that the legacy?
Just look here.
Legacy,
Oh,
That's PFAS.
legacy litigation. Why is that in the?
that's
Building
Doug
department.
Doug Van Essens. He's in a new law group.
Okay, why is it under the building department?
It must be coded wrong. I'll have to check back in with Liz on that one. But yeah, that should be under the infrastructure fund.
Okay. Thank you. And I also noticed we had another about 6,600 with Sabo. After having 8,500, I think it was last month. So I'm just kind of curious what's going on there. Any answers for that?
We have an update on, or for communications, we're in transition. And I believe that the candidate that we interviewed last week to bring the communications more in-house accepted our offer today.
Oh, good.
So we still have the communication, the outside available when needed, and then financially, I think it makes more sense. So we're excited about that.
Okay, thank you.
Good discussion. Was there a motion?
Motion to approve.
Support.
So motion to approve tonight's financial actions by trustee Kessel, supported by trustee Shipley. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Having no unfinished business tonight, we'll move on to Article 9, new business. Item 043, resolution to adopt the hazard mitigation plan for Ottawa and Kent counties. Chief Mazurs, welcome.
Thank you for having me. Appreciate it. All right, so we are currently under the 2017 Hazard Mitigation Plan for Kent and Ottawa counties. That was adopted by formal resolution. They've updated that plan in 22. It's been approved by FEMA for 23. And so it's, I guess, our turn to adopt it if you so choose. What that does is with input from all the communities, including Cascade, they came up with this comprehensive hazard mitigation plan, and then our support plan that we have locally that we practiced on today supports that plan. So this is just the current version, should we choose to adopt it. Yeah, it's just updating it. So I'm happy to answer any questions or any concerns.
I've got questions. Chief, you responded to a hazmat call not too long ago at Costco.
Mhm.
And their ammonia cooling system apparently leaked. Is the use of the hazmat team included in this updated plan?
It is. So Cascade belongs to Tricom, which is a conglomerate of 3 different fire departments to mitigate any hazmat hazards. And so that was activated for the Costco call. Basically, we have an ordinance adopted where we can recoup any kind of hazardous materials incidents already in our ordinance, but this does keep us compliant and help anything that gets above what Cascade can handle on its own. It keeps us compliant with the state of Michigan, Kent County, and makes us eligible to recoup any costs.
Is there any financial consideration for this? Does it cost their township?
The only thing it would cost is a little bit of printing because it's an 800-page document, couple of meetings for me, and then typically a tabletop or a full-scale type exercise once a year just to make sure we're proficient. But there's no real financial ramifications for adopting it, but it does make us eligible to recoup costs should we adopt it and stay proficient at it. So
it's an enhanced mutual aid plan as well.
correct.
Okay, that's all I have.
Further discussion, motion?
I make a motion that we approve the updated hazard mitigation plan for Kent and Ottawa counties.
Support.
It's a motion by trustee Shipley, supported by treasurer Corstange to approve the resolution as drafted, adopting the hazard mitigation plan for Kent and Ottawa counties. Clerk Slater, please call the roll.
Treasurer Corstange.
Yes.
Trustee McDonald.
Yes.
Trustee Shipley.
Yay.
Trustee Nordhook.
Yes.
Trustee Kessel.
Yes.
Slater, yes. Supervisor Lesbrunz.
Yes. Resolution adopted. Thank you, chief.
Thank you very much.
Thank you on behalf of all of us for all the hard work at the fire department. Item 044. Adoption of ordinance to limit camping and storage of personal property on public property in Cascade Township. This came up briefly before, and because maintaining the safety of our businesses and homes and neighborhoods is a top priority, we've been working with the Kent County Sheriff's Department and also our legal counsel to address two specific public safety concerns near 28th Street and the I-96 interchange. The first issue being the disproportionate amount of crime at several hotels in that area. At an upcoming meeting, we will consider adopting an ordinance that will allow us to fairly recoup some of our public safety costs from several of those businesses who continually cost the township taxpayers a disproportionate amount of public safety funds. This agenda item tonight addresses the second public safety concern in that area, which is the homeless encampments under and around the overpass that we saw for the first time really last summer. And with the warm weather coming, we want to be on top of it as we head into spring and summer. So on this one, our community policing officer, Deputy Omar Diepa, has been instrumental in handling this issue. He presented us with several different ordinances from other communities that would give this municipality, the township, the direct authority to ticket and immediately remove those encampments rather than, as we had to do last summer, relying on MDOT and working with them. So with that, Manager Swayze.
Yep, so as legal counsel noted in their memo that you got for the last meeting, that pursuant to MCL 4215, the Township Board of any charter township may enact ordinance considered necessary to provide for the public peace, health, and for the safety of persons and property in the charter township. There's another MCL that goes on to state that the township has the power to control and regulate the use of streets, alleys, bridges, and public spaces of the township and the space above and beneath them. Such regulation of its streets, alleys, bridges, and public places shall be deemed a matter of local concern. So with that, and what Supervisor Lesbrunz was talking about with the issues we've had specifically in the overpass area, legal counsel did prepare the proposed ordinance to regulate camping and the storage of personal property on public property. So the sections of the ordinance address, of course, the title and the purpose of the ordinance. There's definitions of terms within the ordinance, which are always important. Then there's regulations regarding camping and or storing personal property in the public space. Goes through the penalties for violations, and would note is that there is a process, a different process that needs to be followed for individuals that identify as homeless. So the ordinance is in your packet for you to review. If the board chooses to adopt this proposed ordinance at a future meeting, the township will be better positioned to respond to complaints of individual camping or otherwise storing personal property on public property. Currently, the township has to work with the other public property owners, such as MDOT, the Road Commission, the Drain Commission, et cetera, before action can be taken. So in addition, the ordinance does realize the violations of the ordinance may be due to homelessness, and has developed a process to ensure any violators experiencing homelessness can be voluntarily connected to resources before any violation action is taken. So if the board wants to move forward with adopting the proposed ordinance, public hearing will be held prior to consideration. Staff's recommending the public hearing be set for the regular township board meeting on May 24th at 7 p.m. in the Wisner Center. Then after the public hearing is held, the township board may choose to adopt the ordinance at that meeting or any future meeting. With that, answer any questions, man.
Trustee Shipley.
Just so everybody understands, if you have an issue with somebody on private property, you handle that as a trespass complaint with law enforcement. So this ordinance doesn't cover private property concerns. So
So that would apply to the parking lots at Costco, D&W, that kind of stuff, where they seem like public property or they're used like that, but we still need, or the sheriff's department, because we contract with them for law enforcement, need permission from those owners to remove those campers. So Deputy Dieppe has been working hard with the businesses with those property owners, but this addresses, as Trustee Shipley said, the middle areas in between. So with that, is there a motion?
I move to set the public hearing at the meeting on May 24th.
Shipley supports.
It's a motion by Trustee McDonald, supported by Trustee Shipley, to set a public hearing on this matter for May 24th, 2023 at our regularly scheduled next board meeting. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Article 10, discussion. First, review, update on finances. This is Treasurer Corstange's item.
I'm going to first apologize because I have a cold and horrible seasonal allergies, so my voice is less than it normally would be. So just out of full transparency, I think that one complaint and one thing that has been talked about a lot is financial transparency within the township. Normally, I think this process would be a little different, but with Ben leaving shortly, like next week, I believe, I did put together a meeting, request a meeting. Grace was there, our senior accountant was there, our deputy treasurer was there, and Ben was there to kind of go over a lot of the process within the township, how its current state is, and what we're going to do with Ben not being here. So just to kind of start off, we have a new treasurer, me, but it doesn't change the way our government is set up. And I think that there's been a lot of discussion about that, and it was very interesting. I think even in that meeting, some of the township staff that thought I was a full-time employee of the township when we had discussed this. So Ben, do you want to just do kind of an overview of how our government is currently set up with our employees, kind of what they handle, and then what the treasurer and what the board is responsible for?
Yeah, certainly. So we do have full-time financial staff. I, for lack of a better term, serve as the chief financial officer of the township. But I certainly do that in conjunction with our 3 elected officials that have responsibilities as well per the statute. But as far as the full-time staff, I do that. And really, we try to keep the duties separated between the senior accountant and the deputy treasurer / manager of treasury services. When our auditors come, they always talk about separation of duties. If you have too many duties vested in one person, there's an opportunity for fraud. So we always like to make sure that 2 people touch everything that's going on. So one of the things that we talked about extensively was our process for paying payables, right? So the process, we go through multiple steps, but it first starts with all of the department heads signing off on their invoices and transferring them to our senior accountant to be able to process. So they process that in our BSNA software. And once that's done, then I have the ability to go in and review all of those payables to make sure that they're appropriate, that they're coded correctly. And quite honestly, there's not enough time to look at every single payable every single time. So if there's a $3.50, payable to Ace Hardware, I'll probably just click on that improvement. I won't go and look at it. If there's a $15,000 payable for a vendor that I've never heard of before, then obviously I go in and make sure that's all going on. But I get a chance to review that with Liz. She does a very good job. So a lot of times there's not a lot for me to change. Every now and then I have to change a GL line that's going in or question one of those or whatnot. So once those are done, the payables are then created, and before any checks can be sent out, there's another review process. So we have a cover sheet. It has 3 line items on it. Basically, 1 line for the clerk, deputy clerk, 1 line for the treasurer, deputy treasurer, and 1 line for the manager or supervisor. And at least 2 of those lines have to be filled out before any of the checks can be distributed as well. So again, to make sure once the payables are put in, the checks come out, make sure there wasn't any funny business going on between when that was going on. So again, most of that takes place at the paid employee level, right? Now, when somebody leaves, somebody has to step in. So, for example, until somebody is put in as the interim manager, Grace will be going in and checking to make sure that all of those payables are double checked with the assistance of our staff, of course. Isn't expected to Grace to spend 4 or 5 hours of her day, as a non-full-time employee to go in and do that. So, but we're set up to be able to continue to operate when a staff person happens to leave. So, and we have several processes that we go through that as well. We have our PO process for if we have payables that are over a certain dollar amount, kind of follows that same structure. So Sue participates in that one as well as the department head. So there's 3 or 4 levels of approval before a payment of over $1,000 that isn't exempt can be done. So again, another way to keep those checks and balances.
Yep. And then the electronic fund transfers, we just briefly, usually the deputy treasurer sets those up as well, correct?
Yeah. So again, 2-step process. So there's the ability for, I don't have the ability to set up anything in the banking system, but I have the ability to approve. Typically, Oksana, Katie, and Liz are the ones that have the ability to put things into our electronic banking system based on what's going on. So Katie processes payroll, obviously. Liz processes the payables, and Oksana processes basically our wire transfers and investments and all that kind of stuff. Those people put that in, and then there has to be a second approval in order for those to go through. So I have authorization to make that second approval, or anybody on that list that didn't do the inputting has the ability to make that approval on the other side as well. And both Sue and the treasurer have that access as well, and it can certainly be extended to the supervisor if they want that. So
Yeah. So I think this is important just for everybody to understand that Ben does a lot. But we're going to keep running once he is gone next week. But I think it's important for the citizens and for the board to understand kind of the full detailed process, just to understand. And that things will continue to run, that there will be people stepping in. I know Grace will be a lot too, but so that was one of the big things that we talked about, and kind of a deep part of the meeting that we had. Some of the and we're actually going to meet again tomorrow for I think a couple more hours to go through our first trial, I think, of having Grace go through and actually doing it. And then we have next week as well to go through it again, because those things are processed on Thursdays. So we're trying to set up and be proactive to make sure that we have the processes in place, but also the checks and balances to make sure that we are doing things appropriately in the way that they should be. Some other things that we talked about and during the meeting, just briefly, we talked about a lot of stuff, but we talked about the internal audit process, or the annual audit process. That's not due yet for another couple weeks or another month or so, correct?
they'll be back in front of the board in June to give the presentation.
Yeah, and then just so the board knows as well, our contract with them ends this year, correct? So we're going to have to look at.
So Liz, she's going to bring it tomorrow. She did see that we do have an option to use them this year.
Okay.
If the board, this upcoming year, if the board chooses, so in 2023. So the board could either issue an RFP, or they could enact that last year of that option for the current auditor.
Okay, just something for us to think about that we need to be looking at for next year.
And as we transition, it needs to stay on the
Yeah, to
to-do
make sure
list.
we keep, yeah. So a couple other things we talked about, just we went through the AP process too, like you just talked about. We talked about the policies and the current process. We talked about a couple changes that we might end up doing to our monthly financials that are in the board packet. One of the things that I am used to seeing, and I think a lot of people probably are used to seeing, and I think that the public would like to see, is a monthly budget comparison and a year-to-date monthly comparison for budget versus actual. So we talked about doing that maybe quarterly, so that when we get to the end of the year, we know if we're off from budget. We'll see that quarterly throughout the year, or we could see it monthly, that there's a big variance. Just for us to know when it comes to the end of the year and any adjustments that we might need to make, why those are happening throughout the year. We talked about the forensic audit, and where that was another huge topic, where we're at with the forensic audit. Ben, do you want to give an update as to I think the main questions that have come up are the recommendations from the audit company that were made to the board and to the township. Where are we at with those recommendations?
Yeah, yep. So the last thing we need to do is implement the vendor registration program and the conflict of interest program. So that's all developed. Liz and I have started talking about it a little bit, and I've committed to making sure that that is launched before I leave.
Conflict of interest form.
Yep.
Very basic. Does that need board approval?
No, board's already approved it.
I don't want to bust anybody's chops, but I don't know why there has been such a delay on that. And it would have been very helpful at multiple times over the 2 years I've been here. For example, I didn't know that our former law firm was also representing the airport. At the same time, we had PFAS. I didn't know that the former supervisor had created a doing business as company and was selling employee appreciation gifts that are illegal to the township in the amount of up to $47,000. Trying to think of the other list. I didn't know that the airport had the former COO serving on our planning commission. So for such a basic form that doesn't require board approval, I'm not quite sure why it's been over 2 years that we haven't had that. Sorry to be the downer.
Timeline on what you think. I know you're going to be gone next week, but what do you anticipate the timeline, and who is, I think, going to take that ball now to get that completed?
I think it's just a matter of,
Yeah, so Liz will be the point person because all of the vendor registration stuff comes through her.
so that just means providing Liz with a conflict of interest form that she then provides the vendors.
So any vendor that registers for the at the township going forward will have to fill out not only the vendor registration form, but the conflict form. And if there's an identified conflict on the form, then there's a set procedure that the township needs to go through in order to utilize that vendor.
What about the current vendors, though? I know,
Current vendors will have to do the same thing.
okay, because I know you just said the future vendors, but I think to me, it's not just the future, it's the current vendors as well, just to make sure.
Same for engineering firm. Industrial development on the other side of the airport, the list, this is important. It needs to happen. It needed to happen yesterday.
The other thing that we talked about was the budget process with Ben leaving. I think it's important to note that Ben spends at least a quarter of his year, 3 months out of the year, working on the budget process. And we are in May, middle of May almost. And so that is coming up quickly. It's something for us to think about. Being the new treasurer, I think the budget process is super frustrating to me. Our current, and I know Ben and I talked about this, but I just want everybody to understand that we have not had a capital improvement plan for the last 2 years. In 2022, 2021, end of 2021 for budget year of 2022, it was decided to be put on hold due to the strategic plan process. And then in the end of 2022 for the year of 2023, we have not had one. As a treasurer, when you're looking at money that is being invested, it's very limited our options for investments, but to be able to have those funds available when a capital improvement project comes up, it's very important to have a capital improvement plan so those things can be planned into the future. So I just want to make that known that this is our current state where we're at. I don't want these things to come up in another year and for something to come up and it to pretty much be like, why didn't the Treasury Department plan for this? If we did not have these things planned, capital improvements planned out, there's no, Oksana is really good at being able to make money available, correct, Ben? But it's something that needs to be considered, and that's something that we should have. I don't know if there's any other comment. That's pretty much what I have. I'll open this to comments, but we're going to meet again tomorrow to go over more of the process. And we're going to meet again next week with the township attorney as well, to make sure that we are staying within our statutory duties of what we are being assigned to do, and to make sure that we are protected moving forward. But I don't know if there's any other comment.
No, Wendy, you mentioned the capital improvement plan. I remember we used to have a process for that where all the departments, we saw every, and
Yeah,
that's what you're going to
normal.
reinstitute? Yeah.
Well,
No,
that's
she
not
never-
my job.
No,
I'm not trying to be mean, but yes, that is what the plan is that we will either have, we will have to figure it out when we're looking at a manager candidate, what we decide to do.
Mhm.
But it is imperative that we have a budget process that is followed yearly and that goes through the correct process, and that everybody is on the same page, that all of the department heads are understanding that they all are 100% bought in, that the Treasury Department is included, that Oksana understands as well what large capital improvements we might have coming up, and that the discussion is open to everybody, and that we are all transparent between us, the board, the new potential manager, and the public.
Thank you. It's refreshing. I appreciate it. I'm glad someone else is I'm glad to have another. You're in the right spot as treasurer. I don't think you're just a nurse. But it's just important for residents to know fiscally, we have money hasn't been misappropriated. We are well prepared. And we're fortunate to have the balance we do. There's no reason not to with our tax base, but we have the money. Treasurer Corsange, I believe you're pointing out, and what's been issued, we just want to make sure that, especially with the transition, the process.
Yeah.
You can make all the statements you want, but ultimately the process. And I think anyone on this board should be concerned, because ultimately, as the 7 elected officials, we are responsible for ensuring that staff follows a process. So I appreciate that you're on top of it. I know exactly what you're talking about. And yes.
I think there's 2 things. I think one is the treasurer, a couple of things. I think it's important to understand the duties of the board and us up here, but also to understand what our employees within the township, what their roles are as well. But I also think that it's frustrating as a tax-paying citizen within the township, not just as the treasurer. Just because we live in Cascade, our money doesn't grow on trees. We all pay taxes, and that is what funds our township. And I think it's important to know where our money is and to know where our money is going, and that it is being utilized correctly and how the citizens want it to be. And I think that is very important, not just as a board member, but as a citizen in this community that pays taxes. So.
And that's why we eliminated the community development position director. And we hired a parks director based on our strategic plan. We've made a lot of good changes. So I appreciate what you're saying. And yes. There's been a lot of, we hired an in-house engineer because we looked and we were paying hundreds of thousands of dollars to an outside firm and paying for pathway improvements, thousands and thousands of dollars. We hire an in-house engineer, and within a month, you guys have seen that pathways are torn up. It's because our in-house engineer had a plan within less than a month of him being here. And he had already set up the contracts with vendors. So there's really good stuff happening, and I appreciate you being on top of it.
I just think we need to make sure it just continues to move forward. And again, there's certain pieces that make me nervous with Ben leaving, but day-to-day operations are going to continue. And I think that we have a fairly good plan once we get somebody else in in the spot as to how things will be expected to be moved forward in the future.
Thank you.
Manager Search Committee update. I'll handle this one. Search Committee has met twice. This is just an advisory committee made up of myself, the supervisor, Treasury Corstange, and one trustee, Trustee Nordhook, working with our Human Resources Director, Katie Murkowski. We need an interim manager as soon as possible, and we need to be able to make a thoughtful, deliberate choice when it comes to our next manager. So we need a smooth transition and be able to have enough time to thoughtfully think about long-term options. As far as paperwork, Human Resources Director Murkowski, we have that prepared. We have that ready to go. We've been working with our legal counsel, who's also looking and has somebody else who he knows who's looking. And then our HR director is also reaching out to consulting firms who do that professionally. And we will be receiving, I guess, bids from them. We did reach out to one long-term retired manager here locally who had done it for another municipality, but due to traveling plans, he's unable to. And through legal counsel, we have reached out to, I think, 2 others. So hopefully we will hear back an update on that soon, but any deliberations, we don't have any resumes, that will all be public meetings. So nothing will be made, no decisions will be made outside of a public meeting, but that's an update on where we are process-wise to get to that point. Lots going on. It's just in a holding pattern because
I have a question, and maybe I should know this since I'm on the subcommittee, but it just came to me with something you said. For the interim, will that have to be the same process, public comment? Everything public as well for an interim? Okay, I was just wondering.
Yep.
Timing wise.
4 votes.
Okay.
So we're working on that at the same time, but we will have an update at the next meeting too. We want to add to this, since Manager Swayze's last board meeting, although he'll be with us for a little bit longer. So we have a resolution to recognize his years of service, and then also wish him well as he moves up to the county, and accept with regret his resignation. So, Clerk Slater.
I'll read the resolution. Resolution honoring the service of Township Manager Benjamin Swayze. Minutes of a regular meeting of Township Board, Cascade Charter Township, County of Kent, State of Michigan, on May 10th, 2023 at 7 p.m. Whereas Benjamin Swayze was appointed to the position of Township Manager of the Cascade Charter Township on January 21, 2013. And whereas Manager Swayze has dedicated over 10 years of his life to maintaining the fiscal strength, transparency, and integrity of Cascade Charter Township. And whereas Manager Swayze has managed well the daily operations, including staff, municipal affiliations, and the uncountable details thereto. And whereas Manager Swayze has announced his resignation from the position of Township Manager. Now therefore be it hereby resolved that the Cascade Charter Township Board hereby expresses its heartfelt gratitude to Manager Swayze for his selfless and outstanding service to the Cascade Charter Township community. And with that, I make a motion to pass this resolution.
Support.
It's a motion by Clerk Slater, supported by Trustee Kessel. All in favor?
We have to have a roll call.
Oh, okay. Well, he's ready. Okay. To allow our man.
To accept it, whatever. Trustee Kessel,
Yes.
Trustee McDonald.
Yes.
Trustee Shipley.
Yes.
Trustee Nordhook.
Yes.
Treasurer Corstange.
Yes.
Clerk Slater, yes. Supervisor Lesbrunz.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you, Manager Swayze.
Thank you.
Ben,
Oh.
it's not much. If it was a bottle of booze, I might keep it. I have no idea what's in it, but this is with heartfelt thanks from the board. I told you before, I don't know how you carry all that weight in your backpack, because every day you seem to throw another brick.
Is it another backpack?
It's much.
You're getting that in a couple weeks.
Yeah. right? Good one.
Another bit.
Well, thank you. This will be good as I have to learn a whole new job. so-
We should have just taken a yellow pad out of the copy room, but
Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
thank you, Manager Swayze. Article 11, public comments. This is the last time I can punch you to our,
Congratulations on your new job.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Brian Holcomb, 3415 Glenstone Court, as you all know, and just looking to see if you got some good or better, best information.
Well, so I don't know if you got it yet, but I did forward you an email just before I came here. We got notice from the Eagle today that they've closed out their complaint. So I didn't know they were going to be doing that fast. So we will be sending Madison down there to check that out as well. But at least the property owner has satisfied with the requirements that Eagle had put on him.
Did we find out what those were?
Yes, yep. Yeah, that was in that email as well.
Okay,
And then, of course, we still have to look at the internal zoning stuff. So we do have that opinion back from the attorney. We're looking through that internally to figure out, what the next step for that is, because it's kind of uncharted territory for us.
that was what they had it, and you found something out like 2 meetings ago, and they haven't decided, or we haven't found out what we can do yet. That's what we're working on.
So there's an opinion on basically if the property owner has violated the terms of the PUD with the grandfathered in usage. And of course, like any good legal memo, there's not a succinct conclusion at the end. It provides the township a couple different options that they can follow. And really the township and the board ultimately have to figure out what path they're going to go down.
It's off your plate. Thank you.
thank you, Mr.
Thank you.
Holcomb. Mr. Hughes,
Congratulations as well, Ben.
Thank you.
Excuse me. Jeff Hughes, 7250 Redbud Lane. Since the April 12th meeting, I've learned 2 things. One from the county, and that is that subsequent to Dr. Keys's report, the plan is to appoint a multidisciplinary committee to examine the deer issue.
at the county level?
Well, I learned it, someone from the township advised the county of this. I learned it from one of the county commissioners. This was an email I got back, but they were aware of Dr. Keys's report, and they included in part of what they learned in the township that there is to be a multidisciplinary committee appointed.
Was it our county commissioner?
No, it wasn't Mr. Bujek.
Okay.
It was, I think what's the title of the leader of the commission? It's Al something, but.
Oh, administrator?
Is it the supervisor or the administrator?
I think
Whatever.
it's the county's version of Ben.
Okay, anyway, that's who I learned it from. And that was actually in response to email that Mr. Bujek had sent, Commissioner Bujek had sent to
And what was it called? An interdisciplinary?
a committee.
So that was the recommendation that came from Dr. Key.
Got it. Okay.
Okay, so that was one thing I learned. And second, I learned from actually Ben is that in this year's budget, there may be $25,000 to address deer management.
Don't know, not making any promises. I don't know.
Yeah.
So we did put money in the budget for deer management. That's how it's titled, right? So we put $25,000 in there because we didn't know what the recommendation coming out was. So as this multidisciplinary team works through what the process is going to be, there is funding in the budget available for them to recommend something to the township.
So basically I have 2 questions is where are we on the committee, and 2, planning with regards to this budget. I think Ben's already answered that second one. It's we got to have a committee first. And then the more important question, it seems to me, is who's going to be overseeing this with Ben's departure? Is it going to the parks?
Nope, we got an expert for you.
Oh,
Literally.
okay, you've got an answer.
Mhm.
Yeah.
We just recently hired, this isn't our expertise at the board level.
Mhm.
We have a full-time Parks Director who started, I think, a week or so ago,
Yes,
who has experience on this very issue in Ottawa County, and also Blandford Nature Center.
right.
So she's very qualified. We're very lucky to get her. And bonus for us, this is an area she's very connected in as far as county, state area, different levels of government, different
Yes.
resources, and then just personally has a lot of knowledge in.
Now is
So
she
she
going?
will lead it. And I
Okay.
needed to hit forward on the couple emails to her, but she is going, this is her area.
Okay, and may I make inquiries directly to her, or do I still go through the?
Nope, I meant to send you her, yes, you will absolutely go directly to her.
Perfect.
And I think you'll enjoy it more too. The direct,
Oh, I've just had a blast, so.
you've been
yeah.
patient. No, so
Okay.
we don't want to not hear from you anymore,
Right.
but I think you will be delighted at the depth.
Good.
of
Yeah, I
information.
just want to make sure that this doesn't get caught in purgatory while we're waiting for a new manager. So anyway, thank you, Ben. And thank you.
No, thank you. Thanks for staying on top of it.
Okay, well, I'll try to continue. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Van Solkema, welcome.
Hello, thank you. Scott Van Solkman, 2570 Orange. Great job on the pathways. I see that obviously they're all tore up. I went to ride to the high school and ended up having to ride in Cascade Road, but that's okay. I'm used to riding in the road, no big deal. I was gonna take Spalding, but then I saw that Burton's messed up. So, oh, well, okay. I mean, get to shoot everything done. I do have a recommendation. Who runs our website?
In transition as we speak right now. So the,
Okay. Just looking through there, I mean, the pathways should probably, that page should be updated. The parks page should be updated. They have an old, that old playground from the Township Park or whatever, that's all old. So obviously that needs to be updated. And you said we got rid of a position, but then there's another position online for the Economic Development Director. What's the difference between that position and the one that was recently, I guess, closed? So
pay and name and tech.
I mean, is it sort of doing the same thing or?
I don't know, because I think that I think the changes we've made are very good and streamlined. And right now, given where we're at, I don't think we don't need to hire a community development director, primarily at the economic development level. That will be the main thing. There is the DDA, local businesses that tax capture that they get. If you create a DDA, that the certain amount within our DDA district, which in Cascade, which is basically to preserve a downtown type feel, right? In Cascade, we're fortunate, and that's essentially what that position will do. But
Gotcha.
primarily,
That just sort of oversees the DDA and helps out with the library project where we're giving them.
in
money.
theory, there's more and there should be more, but that's the main thing. But we're lucky, we're lucky that Cascade's, one of the main priorities is creating more of a village type downtown area. Quaint. That's the goal.
Yeah.
But then our district, as far as a tax capture, goes all the way along 28th Street along, all the way to Patterson.
Mhm.
So we're fortunate that we have a healthy,
Business area.
business area. But then the priority really, I mean, DDAs were created in part because of the change in business, right? You've got big Walmarts, Kmart's,
Mhm.
Myers that kind of sucked down the traditional downtown. So that was a tool to kind of revigorate those. So
Gotcha. Speaking of that,
there's
I
a
don't
lot
know-
more we can do.
I don't know if you guys remember the people that were here last time regarding the liquor licenses or whatnot. My wife and I did go to the backyard, or I believe that's what it calls, the next day. It was very good. Unfortunately, we were the only people in the restaurant. And I think that serves part of his point of they kind of want that liquor license. So, but it was very good food. But again, we were the only people there. So.
Manager Swayze, can that is expected when on the board agenda?
Meeting.
15 seconds.
So,
No, thank you.
all right.
You're done.
I think that's about it. All right, thank you. Oh, I was walking my dog along at the new corner park there at Cascade. I saw some gentlemen
Time's
working for
up.
the township. They were taking stuff out of the hall. I asked them when they were going to turn the fountain on for the in that park. And the next time I went by, it was up and running. So my dog appreciates that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any virtual comments?
If our Zoom participants would like to make a public comment during this time, please raise your hand. No one raised their hand.
I see we have Ms. Brown from the library. Thanks for coming tonight. And I just want to give you the opportunity if you want to say anything, Lord. I know the outdoor space.
There are no recent updates with the outdoor space, but I meant what I said last week. So I'm trying when I have spare time to just be here. I want to know what's going on in Cascade. I want to be a part of it. So that's really why I popped in. Things slowed down in the library, so I'm going to make sure you guys see me.
Thank you.
Yeah.
That will end public comments, manager comments.
I've spent the past 2 weeks trying to come up with something to say and, scratch things out and scratch them out. And in the end, really didn't come up with anything profound. So I just want to say that I've always treated this position as a privilege and have tried to respect that privilege. And I want to thank the board for giving me that privilege to serve this community. It's been an amazing 10 years. I don't want to say it's not always been sunshine and rainbows, but in the end, I think we've accomplished some amazing things that I'm so proud of, that I'm happy, when I was going through the interview process to kind of reflect on all the good things that have happened here in the township. It's bittersweet because there are a lot of great things coming up. The township board has an amazing strategic plan. The parks have an amazing master plan now. And really, that part of that process was the reason that, I decided to apply for the Parks and Rec position at the county because while I was super excited about what was going in the township, I almost had this sadness that it would always be at arm's length for me, even though that was my passion. But I'm excited. You guys won't get rid of me. I'll be back here talking to you guys about county assets. We've talked 10 years about trying to get a county park in the township, and hopefully I can be the person on the other side to help make that happen. So thank you to the board, and I look forward to speaking to you from the podium in a future meeting.
Hopefully you keep your cell phone number so we still have a fast track to the county.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
Thank you, Manager Swayze. Board comments.
Hi. I'd like to thank you all for coming tonight. A little bit smaller than previous nights, so don't forget to contact your neighbors. One of the largest meetings that we had in the past couple months was concerning development around the airport. If you look at tonight's packet, you'll see that the Grand Valley Metro Council heard you. They heard this board stand up for what you guys want and don't want. And that's refreshing when you can actually see that in writing and say, somebody's listening to us, the residents and the board. So thanks for being there, and bring your neighbors next time. And I've told Ben this before, he's taken with him a wealth of knowledge and contacts. It'll take a little while to try and replace him, but fortunately, we still have a cell phone number apparently. That's all I have.
Thank you.
I just want to say many, many thanks to Ben. You don't need to hear good luck, but good luck.
Thank you.
We look forward to working with you in the future.
Jim has a comment.
Ben, I've said it to you before privately, and I'd like to say it publicly. You're the third manager that we've had since I've been on the board, and had the opportunity to work on your search and Bill's search when Jay left. And I got to know all of them well, and nothing disparaging for either one of them. But I can honestly say you were the most committed. You did the best job for Cascade Township. I feel that all the things that you did to help support Ken and I, when we had recommendations, hard recommendations for the township, and our plan that we had, our defined benefit plan, switching it to a defined contribution plan. You were the guy that had to carry the load to the employees and try to get them to understand why we were doing that, to end an unfunded liability. And you did it with a lot of skill and grace. And fortunately, we got a lot of people to convert and I think they're overall happy. And you did so many other things, the work that you did on the budget, we joked with you in the beginning, the time that it took to present it. It was thorough and complete. We always understood going into the new year what was being proposed and why. And we had plenty of time to review it. So I don't know that everybody out here in the audience, just a few that are here tonight, really know what Ben did, but he did a lot for the township and he did it modestly and with grace. And I'm gonna miss him a lot. So thanks very much, Ben.
Well said, trustee Kessel.
And I want to say, Ben, I wish you the best, but I'm sure gonna miss you. You've been great to work with. I've really enjoyed it and appreciate your support and latitude and helping me understand how things work when I became clerk. So I'm gonna miss you.
Thank you, Susan.
I'm not gonna get all mushy, Ben, but thanks for all your service. Well, you've done a good job. Thank you.
Thank you, Timmy. I appreciate it.
Don't forget our county park. Hundreds of acres down there on Cascade Road.
All right. Let's circle it on a map and mail it to my office.
100 acres, he says. As the new person, thank you, Ben. I appreciate everything and we're trying to cram a lot in the last 3 weeks and I apologize.
No problem.
Thank you, Ben. You are in the middle of so many different groups and issues and you have always been kind, strong, professional, always professional, even when others haven't, including myself. So I don't know if we'll be able to replicate that in the next person, but it's very much appreciated.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Thanks, Ben.
And Cascade remains an amazing place. I'm sure you guys are going to have a ton of qualified applicants to look through. So I'll always be a resource for them as well if they need me.
I think the employees are scared because they know the odds of finding someone as nice and reliable as you are.
This has been.
Not in their favor. We'll do our best and we're glad you're not going far. Is there a motion?
Shipley makes a motion for adjournment since the business of this township board meeting has been completed.
Second.
So motion by trustee Shipley, supported by clerk Slater to adjourn. All in favor? Opposed? We are adjourned. Thank you for coming. Nice to recognize every single person in the audience.